Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Voices of Forestry podcast. I'm your host, Seth Stevenson, the Communications Coordinator with the Arkansas Forestry Association. And this month, we're going to be talking about workforce development. But before we get into that topic, let me thank this month's sponsor, F&W Forestry, for their support of the show. We're going to hear a little bit more from them later on in this episode. But for now, let's get into what are the meat and potatoes, if you will, of this episode, where I sat down with some of my counterparts in some of the other Southern Forestry Associations, including Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama, where we talk about the work our organizations are doing to make sure students out there in our states know about the green careers available to them once they graduate. Now, just a heads up, this episode was recorded back in December of 2024, so if there are any dated reference, that's why. But the information's still good. It kind of gives an insight as to what we all are doing. And so sit back, relax, and enjoy this month's episode of Voices of Forestry on workforce development.
All right, so we're back here in Alabama again for our Southern Forestry Association executive / communicator, now / educator meeting here. Yes. I'm with Jeff Zerang with Minding the Forest, and he's got us all set up here. So, Jeff, let's you and I introduce ourselves first, and then we'll get our guests because we want to get their background a little bit, if that's okay.
Sure, very good, very good. Jeff Zerang, as my audience knows, I am the media specialist for the Louisiana Forestry Association. I've been doing that for about 8 years, come from a newspaper background, and we just try with Minding the Forest to get the message out about sustainable forestry, what it really means, the benefits of it, and how our landowners in Louisiana with 15 million acres of forest land are doing their best to really keep clean air, clean water, and robust wildlife in the sportsman's paradise.
And for Jeff's audience, my name is Seth Stevenson. I'm the communications coordinator with the Arkansas Forestry Association. Been doing that for about 6.5 years now. The math, I always have to remember to do the math in my head before I start speaking on it. But my background is in television news. I did that for a couple years, then came over to the forestry side of things with zero to no knowledge of forestry. And so our podcast, Voices of Forestry, has been a great opportunity for me to kind of learn about what exactly we're doing, get professionals in here, because that's who we truly rely on at the Arkansas Forestry Association, our professionals who know what they're doing, have the expertise to share that information with people out in the world. So we also have, last year we had Florida Forestry Association and Texas Forestry Association. We've got two new to the show associations this year. We've got the Alabama Forestry Association and the Mississippi Forestry Association. So we're going to start with Alabama. Stephanie, if you would like to introduce yourself and just kind of give us a little background on who you are.
Absolutely. My name is Stephanie Fuller. I am the Director of Promotions and Economic Development for the Forest Workforce Training Institute, which is commonly known as Forestry Works. We are an organization that was started here in Alabama and have been operating since 2018. My background, I grew up in a fourth-generation logging family in East Alabama, and I went to an ag economics degree at Auburn University and did a lot of work in rural economic development, policy, and governmental affairs. And then right after college, ended up at Forestry Works and have been here ever since.
So Stephanie, remind me, your dad was jazzed or not so jazzed that you didn't hop into the family business?
He called me a traitor when I started school at the College of Agriculture.
Shout out.
So, yeah.
There you go. Well, but you're still in the industry, really.
Yep, ended up back in the industry. So, full circle. Everything ends up being full circle in life. But excited to go down a career path where I can directly support the industry that raised me and supported me throughout my life.
Okay. Awesome. Susan, would you care to introduce yourself and give us a little background?
Sure, I'm glad to be here. My name is Susan Shedd. I am the Workforce Development Coordinator at Mississippi Forestry Association. I just began there. I started there July 1 of this year. I recently retired from the state of Mississippi with 26 years. So my career there in the state of Mississippi, I worked as a Mississippi State Extension agent for a little while. I was a 4-H youth agent and also a home economist for about 3 years. Then I went to the Mississippi Soil and Water Conservation Commission for about 13 years, and I was their education specialist. And from there, I did a short stint at the Mississippi Development Authority where I was a finance person there managing their grants that they had, their community grants. And then I went to the Department of Health and worked in manufactured foods as well as Bureau of Public Water. And then I actually spent my last 5 years of my state career at the Mississippi Department of Education. So I've been working there. I was working there for 5 years in the career and technical education side of things, CTE. So I'm very well versed in trades and that type of, getting students ready to go into a career.
So you really weren't ready for retirement then, were you?
Well, I was, but wasn't. I mean, so I really I wanted to retire in order to do other things. And, state government is quite challenging at times to work
Really?
in. Yes.
Imagine that.
A lot of red tape. So I'm back to my love of conservation and all things. So.
Well, and that's what I was going to say. I guess I missed this earlier when we kind of learned a little bit about you, is that you do have a background in conservation and natural resources. So that's great.
Awesome. So you joined them just this year?
I did, July 1.
Oh, very
and
good.
this is a new program for Mississippi to have a workforce development coordinator. So we're kind of molding it and developing it into something, talking to industry in Mississippi to try to figure out what that should look like for them to help them.
Okay, great. So we'll talk more about that. It's the subject of today, really, workforce.
Workforce development is kind of the overarching theme here today, which I think we might have touched on in last year's episode that we did.
Yeah, a little bit.
But we wanted to kind of dive a little bit deeper this time around, especially since we were here with Stephanie, because 3 of the 4 states represented on this show are a part of the Forestry Works program. Louisiana is not, correct, currently?
We are not at this time. It is something that we have talked about, as is with all forestry associations and our limited resources. We have to find a way that it would make it work.
Yeah.
And right now in Louisiana, a lot of the job situation is handled through our community college and our 4-year universities. But we do have good partnerships with the mills, and we have good partnerships with the universities, and so that helps as far as getting people in the workforce and encouraging them. We also work with the Louisiana Forestry Foundation, which is under our umbrella, and they provide scholarships, numerous scholarships, actually. There are 3 4-year universities in Louisiana: Southern University, Louisiana State University, and Louisiana Tech. All 3 have 4-year forestry programs. Southern focuses on urban forestry, and LSU has some research as well as for forestry and wildlife biologists and things of that nature, as does Louisiana Tech. And so Louisiana Tech probably has the biggest participation with our Forestry Foundation as far as scholarships and that is concerned. Since 1967, I think it is, the Forestry Foundation it's approaching $1.5 million awarding scholarships over that 50 years. We have been very blessed to have such a robust foundation that can handle that. And it even is to the point where education really is principally the mission statement of the foundation. So they will provide funds for research as well as scholarships for students. And in that, the foundation has funded studies for research at LSU and at Tech, and they have also provided help with some programming for its forestry students. And that's really the only key for a student to be awarded a scholarship is to be in a forestry program. We do have one, we have 2, and one of them, unfortunately, is kind of teetering on whether it will survive. But Swella has a forestry tech program, and the Huey P. Long campus of the Central Louisiana Technical and Community Colleges, they have a forestry tech program. Their campus is in Winfield. Swella is in Lake Charles. Both areas have a lot of forestry going on in the region. The CLTCC program is probably a little more robust in having the number of students and the progress that being made in that program. The forestry tech at Swella, unfortunately, has had some trouble. We're hoping that is going to survive budget cuts that Louisiana is often looking at. but we're going to see where that program falls. So hopefully that will survive. At this time, that's where Louisiana falls in providing the workforce for the future.
This is a common kind of thing that a lot of forestry associations, and I'm sure other associations in various other types of industry are looking at, is workforce development. This is something that all of us are kind of focusing on in some shape, form, or fashion.
Correct.
And one thing that has really been a big benefit is the Forestry Works program that started, a couple years ago? Stephanie, is that when y'all started this?
2018.
2018? Okay, so 6 years ago. Yeah, 7 years ago. Can you just kind of talk, because you were one of the key people. You corrected me on that yesterday. You were not the architect, but you were one of the people that kind of helped build this program and made it what it is. And you guys are in 10 states now?
10 states, yeah.
So can you just kind of explain what exactly is Forestry Works and how did it come to be?
So Forestry Works was founded in 2018 here in Alabama by the Alabama Forestry Association and its membership. The membership here in Alabama, all sectors of the supply chain came together and identified the need for a forest industry supply chain focused workforce development effort. A lot of the times we will get grouped into general manufacturing or agriculture when it comes to looking at broader workforce development efforts. And forestry is just such a unique industry that we definitely believe that there could be some effort specifically for the roles that are, a saw filer. Where else are you going to find that type of career and, other types of general manufacturing? And so we wanted to be sure that we were supporting our industry in any way possible. And very shortly after we started the program in 2018 here in Alabama, we realized that there was an opportunity that these programs could positively affect all of the forestry states in the nation. We know that wood moves across state lines every day. Finished products moves across state lines every day. And so we want to make sure that our programs are positively affecting all of the states in which trees grow and forestry products exist every single day. And so we have had the opportunity in the past 6-7 years to expand into 10 states, working with 10 different state forestry associations, working with state and government partners such as forestry commissions, the U.S. Forest Service, and then also working with university and community college partners. University of Kentucky has been a great attribute to the program, North Carolina, so many great schools there as well. But our mission is to provide a pipeline of workers, professional, safe, and knowledgeable, skilled workers for the forest products industry for the short term and for the long term to come. We want to make sure that our programs are focusing very heavily on the long-term approach of what does the next generation of forestry professionals look like. We know that the work that we do today in the school systems with the kindergartners, the third graders, we're not going to see results on those efforts, for 18, 20 years. However, it is so important that those students understand not only sustainable forestry and natural resource conservation, which we have so many great partners who do great jobs at educating on those topics, but taking that education a step further and saying, you've learned about these really cool efforts to make sure our forests are healthy and clean. This is how you can become involved in those efforts and support that supply chain when you do get older. Because we firmly believe that a student can't be what they can't see. And so if they don't know what a logger is, if they don't know what a forester is, they might not want to be that one day. And so we want to gain that exposure for those younger students. And then definitely going into high school, making sure that we're following those students through the high school journey, helping create pathways for them after school into the workforce or into the community college, the 4-year programs, and then also making sure that we are recruiting adult age workers for those workforce shortages that we're seeing right now in the short term. We want to make sure that we can recruit those people into those jobs and we can retain those people in those roles as well, because that just creates a safer and more productive environment for the entire industry. So our 3 pillars of work focus very heavily on career education, K through 12, career promotion for adult age workers, and then training also if needed. Our main goal with our training components is to work very closely with the partners, just like you were mentioning, in the community college system, in other programs that already exist. However, if needed, we will create training programs where there is a need.
And so we were talking yesterday, kind of some of this new stuff that you guys have been doing, but I mean, as a part of this program, you guys are writing children's books, creating curriculum for teachers to use in their classrooms to kind of talk about some of these topics in the forestry industry and in the natural resources industry, right? Is that kind of the main focus right now, is creating some of these curriculums, or what are you guys working on here recently?
Yeah, absolutely. So our curriculum programs that go into the high school units, that is probably one of the biggest and most pivotal pieces of work that we've ever been able to do. And we firmly believe that that 9th through 12th grade market is so important to our industry, because those are the workers of 5, 6, 7 years from now. And so we need to make sure that we are fostering that inspiration about these careers, but then also, again, pathways. If these students don't understand how to become a saw filer or a forester or a logger, they're not going to go into those pathways. They're going to go into the career where their teachers were able to guide them directly. Hey, these are the college programs you need to take. This is a certificate you need to take. This is how you apply for this job. And so we want to make sure that we're creating resources like our curriculums that give them that first step into the industry, the safety, the KPIs, just a general understanding of what, this word means. What is a cant in a sawmill, And so just that one step ahead, that they'll have an advantage over somebody who has never heard about our industry elsewhere. And so creating those resources is really important part of our program.
Just want to go back just a little bit. KPI, we all use jargon of the industry. What is KPI?
So a KPI essentially are the standards in which the sawmill needs to operate to certain operating standards. Okay. So it is essentially, how many board feet you want to be operating per minute. And so it's just kind of those standards of where the sawmills operate, or any type of industry manufacturing is operating.
Okay. Now, is this primarily with agricultural students in high schools like the FFA or 4-H?
So the easiest route into the high schools for an industry like ours would be through FFA, 4-H, those VOAG teachers. They're primarily the easiest market to get into because they can understand the relation of forestry as it relates to agriculture. However, we really have made an effort in the last couple years to make sure that we are trying to reach maybe non-traditional ag teachers or homeschool groups and non-traditional educators, so that students who might not have the opportunity to learn about forestry, some schools don't even have ag teachers anymore. Yeah. And so we want to make sure that we're providing those resources on a very level playing field, so that, the student who might not even know that they're interested in that industry can have that opportunity as well. But ag teachers are primarily the easiest to reach.
Well, you mentioned homeschool too. That's interesting because my wife and I homeschooled our children throughout their entire education career until they got to college. How do you approach that? Because we do see a rise in homeschooling right now, especially since COVID, and parents took on the duties of teachers and were taking care of the education for their own students. How do you get with the homeschoolers?
So we have been very lucky to be able to build contacts with the homeschool cohorts. And so by reaching those cohorts and those groups of homeschool parents and students that get together regularly, we can provide them with a mass amount of resources that they can then distribute into the home. We try to make sure that as many of our resources as possible are delivered online, so that these students can do it at their own pace, just like a normal homeschooling curriculum might look. And so we intentionally get very involved with homeschool cohorts and making sure that we're delivering those resources to those students. The parents or the cohort sponsors, facilitators are more than welcome to come and be trained through our teacher trainings to learn to teach the curriculum. And then we will still be able to test and certify those students just like a traditional school student.
Awesome.
So one of the big things in Arkansas that we use from an education standpoint is Project Learning Tree, or PLT, to use the acronym that forestry loves to use so much. You said it yesterday, too, that you guys have kind of integrated PLT into your teachings, because it is such a pretty well-known program throughout the country, and multiple countries even, that you didn't want to step on the toes of that training. You just wanted to incorporate it and kind of help accomplish the goals that you guys are trying to do, right?
Absolutely, yes. So we have, again, intentionally wanted to reach out and partner with PLT, Project Learning Tree, in any way possible. They have such a strong and rooted foundation in natural resource conservation education. And so we were very specific and intentional when we started the Forestry Works programming that we wanted to complement what Project Learning Tree was already doing. Project Learning Tree focuses very heavily on educating, normally K through 8, but they now have programs through 12th grade on, again, natural resource conservation, education, sustainable forestry. So they are taking a really hard component off our backs in helping those students understand what sustainability even means. What is natural resource conservation? And so what our goal is with Forestry Works is to come in on the latter end of those teachings and really just follow that up with, hey, you learned about sustainable forestry. This is how you can be involved, and this is how you can have a career in sustainable forestry one day. And so I really believe that our programs complement each other so well, and they have done a great job. We have definitely followed their model here at Forestry Works in building a network of facilitators all throughout the nation and figuring out how to distribute resources effectively and the messaging effectively, and they've done an incredible job, and we just continue to look to them for direction on that kind of work.
So over the past 6 years, like we kind of mentioned, you guys have gotten 10 states on board with the program. So as one of the people who did kind of have a hand in making Forestry Works what it is today, what's that like for you to see so many states buy in, if you will, to what exactly it is you guys are doing?
It has been very humbling and so incredible to see not only the support but the partnership that we have been able to gain for Forestry Works throughout the nation. Starting in 2018, it was just a lone Alabama program. It was a very, very small staff. There was a staff of 3 of us, and it was very small staff, very small capacity as far as funds and workers. And so we, just thought that our pie in the sky dream was we'll expand into 3-4 states in the Southeast, and then here we are looking at it 6-7 years later, and we've expanded into 10 states, not only in the Southeast but also lake states out west in California. And it's just so cool to see that the understanding that the forest industry's strongest attribute behind the natural resources that we're blessed to be stewards of is our people. They are the backbone of our industry, and the people that wake up every single day and put their boots on and, make these products, manage these forests, protect our environment. We can't do it without them. And everything, our economies, our communities, everything relies on this industry that some people think is so simple and dirty jobs, And so it's been really cool to see that buy-in and so much investment from around the nation into the next generation of workforce.
All right, we're going to take a little break right here to hear a little bit more from our sponsors this month, F&W Forestry. F&W Forestry Services has been maximizing the value and enjoyment of clients' land since 1962. Whether the objectives are economic, aesthetic, environmental, or recreational, they work with landowners to create a personalized plan for success. With offices throughout the U.S., including in El Dorado, F&W's knowledgeable forestry professionals are familiar with the regional markets and provide services at the local level. They are proud of their reputation for consistently providing quality results in handling timber sales, property management, field support, forest inventory and mapping, real estate, and forest land accounting. So whether you are a private landowner or a large organization, F&W has the experience to serve your needs. To learn more about F&W, visit their website at fwforestry.com.
Susan, you've been sitting quietly. Okay, you're starting up. Mississippi is starting up with this program. Take us through how you have gotten Mississippi involved and kind of getting it off the ground.
Well, I'm going to start back a little bit,
Okay.
A little bit of history. So 2 years ago, Governor Tate Reeves decided to do about 2.5 years, investigation to see, what did it look like for Mississippi students in Mississippi when they left high school. Like, what did that path look like for them? So what he found out is that Mississippi ranked almost number one in sending kids to college from high school, which was very impressive. That's an impressive number. But if you go back the second year, you see that we almost fall to dead last in keeping those kids in college. So in school systems, that's where the success was. We were told that your success is getting these kids to graduate and enter college. That is their success. Well, then you see that half the kids or more are dropping out after the first year. And so you're like, well, they now have no way of providing for their family. They have, no way of fitting into a job to be, successful in their life. So that really started them thinking about in Mississippi, what should we do? So they developed actually a brand new state agency called Mississippi Accelerate. And one of those things is that we started career coaches in Mississippi. And so since then, they're really focusing on those students that it's not, a successful student is not someone who goes to college. A successful student is someone who is going to pursue either a vocation or a trade or be successful and be able to, provide for their family and have a livable wage. And
That's
so that's
so refreshing to hear. Sorry. Yes. Sorry to interrupt.
No, but that's very important to see. So
Yes.
Mississippi has kind of like changed their thinking. A successful student is not someone who's going to go to college. It's going to be someone, there are going to be great students. We do need college. There's lots of students that want to go to college, and there are lots of degrees out there that we need a college degree. But there's also a lot of students that are not college, that have no desire to go to college. But they're good workers, and they want to make a living for themselves and earn a living for their family, a livable wage. So that's something, and so Mississippi is really focused on that right now. And so that's why I think a lot of the Forestry Association, Mississippi Forestry Association, has really developed, this position and wanting to really focus on that, because Mississippi is their third commodity in Mississippi, third-ranked commodity is forestry. And so it's a big, a big industry in Mississippi, and I think it's important that we do have a voice in, getting students ready for a career in
Right.
forestry.
Yeah. Do you know what the economic impact of forestry in Mississippi is?
I think we are in the billions of dollars of bringing into the state. So
I would imagine in Louisiana, it's 11 to 13 billion dollars.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't think that Mississippi would not be comparable.
No, yeah, I think a lot of us, especially in the South, are somewhere at least in that ballpark.
It's a multi-billion dollar industry
100%.
in every state in the
Mm-hmm.
Southeast for sure. You don't need to get exact figures. if you,
well, actually, I looked that up last night, and I did take a picture. 15.44 billion.
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
And that's not surprising at all.
Mm-hmm.
At all. So the Mississippi Forestry Association is going with a program that has been proven to impact the industry. And we all have the same troubles in the industry. Our workforce is getting older. We don't have the exposure to the younger generations to get them involved in the industry. And we're talking principally, Stephanie, you had mentioned about the supply chain, but that is a crucial part of what we do. And that's important to keep going. It's important to get more people, young folks, involved in that. So what's your next step in Mississippi?
At Mississippi Forestry Association, we did receive a grant from SFI in Mississippi. And so one of the things that we've been doing is taking the career coaches so these career coaches that Mississippi Accelerate really, the legislature funded and gave money to Mississippi Accelerate to create these career coach positions. And these positions are now in every high school in Mississippi. So their whole purpose and goal is to really sit down with high school students and really help them find their path, their career path. So whether that's going to be to go to college or whether that's going to be a trade, they're going to sit down with them and kind of help them find out where they should go and that process, and creating, y'all were talking about the pathway of showing them how to get there. And so one of the things is that we have done is taken our career coaches and we have taken them actually on mill tours and sat down and had different forestry industry come in and speak to them. And so that's been something interesting. And so we have also given them the Forestry Works career cards and the information from Forestry Works, since we're part of the Forestry Works. And we've had nothing but just, oh my gosh, this is so great. We love this. And so it really opened their eyes. They said, we didn't realize what type of industry is here, and that, and what kind of wages that they can earn. And that, even in a logging, we go to a logging site usually, and they see these people that are operating on these, big machines. Well, they didn't realize, they have air conditioning now on these big machines and heat, and they can listen to the radio. It's no longer just, you're working, in the elements all the time.
Right.
So they started to pull away with it, with a different idea of what forestry looks like now in the 21st century.
The technical changes that have happened over the last couple of decades, especially, and I was reading somewhere about students who are becoming doctors. They're finding their robotic surgery is beneficial if they've played video games. Mm-hmm. The same thing applies for the logging equipment as well. If you look in there, you got joysticks and lots of other technical and electrical equipment in there. It's not like the old levers of the old days. And what amazes me is these guys, when those great big machines, have such finesse to do their job. It is fascinating. And when I imagine the coaching career, the career coaches rather, it's not surprising to hear that they don't understand about the logging industry or the forestry industry as well.
And I think it's important to talk to them and let them know, and to actually take them to a site and let them see what it's all about. Because then when they're talking to a student and they know the student loves that, maybe they like to work outside, maybe they're outdoors kind of person, and that's something they don't want to sit behind a desk the rest of their life, and they don't want to be inside the rest of their life. Well, this is a really possibility for them to earn a livable wage, to take care of a family, that they can live on, and provide for themselves and their families. So I think it's important for them to see that.
I think that's a big crucial part, if you don't mind here, Jeff.
No, go ahead.
Because, again, I came from a background, zero forestry knowledge. I grew up in a rural Arkansas town, never heard a lick about any kind of forestry. But when I got into this position and going out to logging jobs or going out to the mills and just seeing what exactly is going on in there and what it takes to create some of the forest products that we use every single day that's a big deal. Going out and seeing this stuff. It's one thing to watch a video or show the kids a video or read about it in a book.
Right.
But to actually go out on the site and see like, oh, no, these guys are doing X, Y, and Z. They're having to, they have all these different types of training behind it. That's a big part of communicating that back to the students. So I think you guys taking the effort to take these career coaches out and physically show them this is what's happening, heck, in your backyard, So I think that's a big part of what we're trying to do.
That's fascinating to me because and I know all of you have the teacher tours where you bring the teachers through PLT program, and in Louisiana, they get tours of the mills, they get tours of logging sites, and it's all incorporated in that. So it's as though we introduce them for the younger ages especially, but we don't have that crossover, which it seems like Forestry Works does for the other areas. Seth, you in Arkansas, y'all are starting it up now?
So we've been a part of Forestry Works for a hot minute now, right, Stephanie?
2021.
Yeah. So we were one of the first handful of people to really get involved with it. And Rob Beadle, our director of forestry education with our education foundation, is really the driving force behind that. We of course, as everyone else did, heard a need from our members, our bigger members, to figure out what's going on with workforce development. So we hopped on board with Forestry Works and Stephanie and her crew, and really went to town. We did Be Pro, Be Proud, which is in a lot of states now. We did an episode on that. I won't go into too much detail, but we did an episode on that. If people are curious, they can go back and listen to that episode. But we've hopped on with Be Pro, Be Proud. Rob has also been very good. He's partnered with the Arkansas Environmental Education Association, AEEA, to put on Green Careers Expos for the last 3 years now. And this is a program that's designed to kind of move around the state to different schools to tackle different areas of the state and get different students every year to introduce them to green careers that are a potential job opportunity for them after high school, or something to pursue once they get into college. So that has been very good. Like I said, it's designed to move around the state, and that way we never hit the same student 2 times in 1 year. We kind of introduce stuff to them. They can, go cycle out through graduation or whatever, and then the next time we come around, we have a fresh new group of students to kind of introduce these ideas to. So those have been kind of the big career workforce development things that we've been doing in Arkansas, along with the stuff with Forestry Works, and we've been really pushing folks to kind of look into that information and, heck, just even put their job openings on that website, because it's such an easy, free thing to do. We just got to tell them, hey, go here, and, let them take care of it for you. So that's kind of been the big thing for Arkansas is kind of working with Forestry Works, and then some of the other programs that Rob has really, really done some great work with to kind of get off the ground. I think this last one we had was at the Arkansas Tech University in Russellville in the River Valley area of Arkansas. We had about 256 students go through, and 30 to 50, somewhere in that ballpark area. Different exhibitors. That's essentially what they are, as exhibitors, but kind of showcasing what they do on a daily basis, and the opportunities for students like them after high school or graduation from college. So it's been really good. Rob's been doing a lot of good stuff, and we're gonna, as far as I'm concerned, we're gonna keep that going. I think this is gonna be something that's never gonna truly go away. Workforce development.
Hopefully not.
So we're going to keep hitting the pavement and working with Stephanie and some of the other states just to kind of see what's working, what we can be doing better in Arkansas to get the students this education, the education that they need. So
you used an interesting term that certainly applies in our industry, but you don't hear it necessarily related to our industry, is green jobs. And it is. I mean, we're talking about conservation. We're talking about natural resources that are renewable, that we will have with them. And you talk about your, when you were growing up, small town, didn't know about forestry. I grew up in South Louisiana, where there is no forestry.
Yeah.
Well, I take it back. There's some light forestry, where there's selective harvest with cypress trees, but it's few and far between you just don't see it. And I remember an experience in college where somebody was complaining, oh man, they're harvesting, they're cutting all the trees down. So what do you think about that? I said, well, if you got mills in the area, I find it hard to believe that they would use up their entire resource and have nothing to produce anymore. So it seemed like they would have a way to keep it going. And that leads me to, I'll let you off with this one, Susan. You said SFI. And just for the folks who don't know, SFI is Sustainable Forestry Initiative. Their website is forest.org. But tell us a little bit about SFI and how it fits into your program with that grant.
That was kind of before my time. So they did write that grant prior to me getting there. But basically the grant that they had wrote or given them money for was only for workforce development and for these career coach tours. So they actually are paying for our buses for the teachers to go, because we usually meet at one location, because logging sites, are not conducive to like 20 or 30 cars to be parked there. So, and they're usually off-road. So we do usually rent buses. We have a maximum of 20 career coaches that we can usually take to a tour. That is, and we've had more want to come. So we're just getting started. And so the career coaches actually have I guess they report to a certain person at the Planning Development District in Mississippi. There's several around the state. But their person came to me and said, this is wonderful. I have more career coaches that are in this side of the state. I would love y'all to host one there. And so we're planning to do one there in the spring. So when they're coming to you and they're saying, this is what they need to hear, this is what they need to see, it really opens your eyes to, I don't think there's enough industry that are actually, they may give them information and say, these are the jobs available, but they don't make it to where they bring them in and say, this is what it looks like. So, firsthand, you can pick those students that are going to love this and want to stay here and keep them here, because, in Mississippi is a very rural state, and you have lots of boys and even girls and that like to hunt, like to be outside. And I think that, that is a real benefit to being in forestry, because you are going to be more outside than you are inside. And I think that for those, kids or students that want to do that, then I think it's a perfect fit for them.
Well, as in addition to that, though, especially if they're hunters, they really care about the woods. It's not just going in and harvesting everything you see. They care about what they're doing out there, and I think that's a big misconception with a lot of folks, that they just come out and start cutting trees willy-nilly, and it's not. It's very well planned. It's very well calculated as to what will be harvested and what will be replanted.
And I think it's very important to say that, people that are not around forestry, they don't realize that forestry is it's a renewable resource. Water is a finite resource. So it's something that, you have to really protect and take care of. But, trees are a renewable resource. We have more trees in Mississippi than we did in 1938. So we're doing a really good job of, even though we do have, forestry is the number 3 commodity in Mississippi. We have mills and we have people cutting their timber all the time. I think we do a good job of reforesting the acres that we're, cutting down. So, and that just proves that.
I think one of the big misconceptions just about our industry in general is, growing up in school, you always saw photos or videos from, people just bulldozing the Amazon down. And then they take that, they say that's forestry. Then they take that idea and it kind of muddies the connotation of the word forestry. So growing up, you're raised to don't cut down trees, let them grow, whatever. And it's not what we're doing at all in Arkansas, Mississippi, Alabama, Louisiana. Right. Any state with any kind of forestry, for the most part, is doing it sustainably, you would hope, and doing it right. Because these people do truly care. Just thinking about some of our landowners in Arkansas, they love their land. They truly care about their property. They're not in it to make a buck. They're not rich by any stretch of the imagination. They love the land, and they want to make sure it prospers and the trees grow. And yes, they do make some money off of it eventually, but it's renewable, just like corn is. It just takes a little bit longer to grow and get to maturity.
I'm sure in Arkansas, Mississippi, and Alabama, it's all the same, that the resources that they do make from these harvests are put back into the land.
Oh, 100%.
Stephanie, green jobs, is that something that y'all use, the terminology that you use in your program?
Oh, absolutely. We love it. We love a hot word, a buzzword. We definitely try to promote all of the forest industry job as green jobs. And we, a lot of the time, say that forestry was the original green industry. That's such a hot topic these days. And, with batteries and all that, but we won't go into that. But, we were the original green industry, and we're very proud of that. And one added or secondary benefit that we really see from all of the exposure that we're able to gain for these students throughout the states in which we operate and all of our partners in the states is we understand that every single student that we reach with our programming and our resources, we understand that we're not going to recruit every single one of those into the industry. And that's not a realistic expectation.
Right.
But what we do understand is even if that student does not end up working in our industry, that student is going to be a consumer one day, that student is going to be a voter one day, and that student can either be an advocate or they can be a villain against the forest industry one day. And so if we can provide them with resources and knowledge and facts about our industry, then maybe we can also just change the perception of, the world one day about forestry. Because you're so right, Seth, growing up, we saw those videos of them cutting down the rainforest. And so now, even in 2024, when we're going into schools, we're having to have conversations about there's no rainforest in Alabama. There's no rainforest here. And so what you're seeing is, while it's true and it's happening and it's devastating, it's misinformation about our current place in the industry and our place in the environment.
And I think, too, for the most part, us forestry would not agree with what's going on.
Absolutely not.
Over there. They're not doing it. It's not being done sustainably. That's the big key word with what's going on here in the States, especially in the South, is sustainable forestry.
Right.
We're not out here to, bulldoze everything down and be like, all right, good job, let's go home. It's, we want to manage it and take care of it. ultimately Forestry Works is yes, it is recruitment, but it is education, like you were saying, Stephanie. And Susan, with your background kind of in the Department of Education over there in Mississippi, can you just kind of speak to how important is it to have programs like a Forestry Works, or things like teacher conservation tours or what have you? How important is that to have in the public school system, in anywhere really?
I think it's extremely important because what I see all the time, or what I saw working in the schools, is that so many teachers and even students are so far removed from I'll say the farm, or being in a rural setting. And even if they are in a rural setting, usually they're never outside. Sometimes you have a lot of students that when we would go and do conservation, education conservation, with the 5th or 6th graders, when I worked at Mississippi Soil and Water, you would say, where do corn flakes come from? And they would say, I don't know.
A box. Yeah.
Where does brown milk come from? A brown cow. It was like,
Yeah.
we're like, no. Yeah. So, you would have those talks, but you realize real fast that even, this generation has been so removed from the farm per se, that they really do not know how conservation or natural resources, how that works really. And they just know they go to the grocery store and they pick it up and there it is. They really don't even know that, like when you talk about forestry, how many products benefit, forestry products that benefit from the trees that we cut down, and they don't realize when you cut that tree down, pretty much every part of it is going to be utilized for something, whether it's the product, whether it's going to be wood for your home. It's just not that anymore. So I don't think they realize how big the industry is and what that involves. So talking to students, talking to teachers is very important because you're increasing their knowledge. And I think, like she said, if you don't let them know, they don't know what they don't know. Mm-hmm. So it's important for you to tell them and to give them that education. And since we have that, we have to be willing to share that with them and go into school systems and do that. But working with Mississippi Department of Education, until I got there, I really did not have a, I didn't think either or. I thought you graduate high school, you go to college. Mm-hmm. And a lot of kids that didn't go to college, well, it's just because they didn't, they just didn't have the grades to go, or, maybe they just didn't want to go to school. But looking at CTE, it was really important to see that there are so many successful people in this world, smart people, successful people that do not have a college degree, and that or have gone to a 2-year program or a trade school to get their degree. And it's just like, they're very impressive people. They have their skill, they're top of their, forestry chain of the career, and they're just really top-notch people. And I'm just like, I saw a lot of things that impressed me so much with some of these kids that are coming out of high school and going straight into a trade. They're very mature. They know what they want to do. And they're, instead of gaining debt, they get out of college and they're having a career and making money straight away, and they don't have to pay off any debt. It's really smart. Mm-hmm. And so I think that you have to look at all that. But the education side of things showed me that there's another path. That when you graduate, you can have a pathway to success, to feed your family, to have a livable wage without having to go to college. And so, we grew up in an era of where it was college. Right. You have to have a college degree. And I'm not taking away from that, because some degrees, they do need that. But I think that it's very important to think that students can be successful without having that college degree, to go to a trade school or either go to a 2-year degree into welding, into truck driving, mm-hmm. into big equipment, those type of things. Maybe it's going to be big engines, those type of things, but something that they can gain a trade with. And I think that opened my eyes to that, because I was a person before I went to the Department of Education that I thought really, your best bet was to go to college. Mm-hmm. But it really opened my eyes to like the careers that are there without a college degree. And and then when I topped over to forestry, it really opened my eyes to like how big this industry is.
Stephanie, kind of building off of what Susan said, again, yes, growing up, it was college or there was no other option besides college for me.
Yeah, right.
And that was just kind of what my parents fell into. It's what schools fell into. But are you guys seeing or hearing from even other states that kind of focus has been shifted to, well, college obviously isn't for everybody. There are technical trades for students. Are you guys seeing that push or hearing that from other states in coming out of schools?
Yes, we are absolutely. And there was a term for it I saw the other day, but I can't remember it. Something like the blue collar wave or something. But we are definitely hearing and seeing from not just the South, but all the regions across the nation that there has been a major thinking shift in that thought process of you have to go to college to be successful. And I think a really big part of that is once there was a couple of generations that were kind of pushed into that, 4-year college university pathway, the economy and the community started realizing, oh, we need a plumber. We need a bricklayer. We need these people to do these trades, and we're not encouraging any students. As a matter of fact, we are discouraging students from going in those careers because we're calling them dirty jobs. We're acting like being blue collar and being dirty is a bad thing, while we believe very strongly in forestry that that's a badge of honor. I've never been more proud of anyone in my life than my father, who would come home every day and just filthy from head to toe. That was a badge of honor growing up. And so we are definitely seeing that shift, and not just with teachers and educators, but also with the students as well, because I think for them, they are looking at their older siblings, their parents, their aunts, their uncles, their cousins who have, like Susan said, hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt. And those interest rates are not getting any lower on those student loans. And I think that shift is also coming in. Everything is more expensive these days. College is getting more expensive, and there are alternative methods where you can get out of school, you can get out of technical college with a certificate, making $70,000, $80,000, $90,000 as a 19-year-old. And I think that's very attractive to a generation of students that's growing up in kind of a weird point in our society as a whole, in the nation. It's a very pivotal point. But I think we're headed in a really good direction.
Okay. Are you still fighting that mentality of, yeah, that's nice what you're doing, but shouldn't they go to college? If you have the aptitude for college, shouldn't you push that child to go to college?
Luckily, we haven't heard that too much. Obviously, we are still very supportive of the 4-year college route because we need professional foresters, we need engineers, we need scientists. And so it's very much balancing that fine line of, we very much support the ones who are fit for college and want to pursue that path. We want to support them in that pathway, but also we don't want to over-encourage students who might not be a good fit for that to go into that pathway. So it's a dance. You have to dance right there on the line.
Yeah, I think so. In Louisiana, we went through a time where we created this program for students, the TOPS program, Tuition Opportunity for Students. And it was a way to push more students to go to college. They wouldn't have to pay tuition if they scored high enough in the ACT, things of that nature. Well, then we ran into the same thing, okay? A lot of people in the trades. We need mechanics, we need electricians, all those things. None of these kids are going into those careers. So then they transitioned from the trade schools, which were practically ignored, to a community college system where they still did what the trade schools did, but they added on other aspects of a 2-year degree, and that has worked, and it's growing, thankfully. And you still have the opportunity to have the student come in and take 2 years and say, well, okay, yeah, I do want to go. Like the forestry tech program that the community college in Winfield has. They will come on, they will earn their forestry tech degree, and they can go to work right away for a company. But if they look at it and say, maybe I do want to be a forester, they can take that time in the 2-year institution and transfer it to Louisiana Tech and work toward a forester's degree. So those opportunities are great. So you're getting introduced to that. But there are a lot of students who have, like Susan said earlier, they come in and they're not up to par with what they need to go to college, and they are dropping out. I think the impetus of the community college system in Louisiana started when you had a lot of 4-year schools teaching remedial courses to the freshmen coming in rather than getting them started on freshmen and pushing them forward. So, lots of those things have changed, and I'm really excited about the Forestry Works program.
Thank you.
And I'm hoping that one day it comes to Louisiana. But
Me too. I'm excited.
We'll see.
Well, and
We'll
that
see.
kind of brings us. We're closing out. It seems
Yes.
like we're getting close to the end here. But one thing I do want to kind of talk to both of you about. We'll start with you, Stephanie. Is what do you want the future to look like for Forestry Works? What are some of the things that maybe you guys have in the works that you can talk about? But what do you hope to see happen with this program here in the next 4 or 5, however many years?
So I would say, 5 years goals for Forestry Works is obviously we want to continue to respond to opportunities and challenges where we can. Obviously, we would love the opportunity to expand the program into more and more states, expand the footprint of the resources into Louisiana and into, some of our other states. And we would love to respond to those opportunities, but we want to make sure that as we continue to grow, yes, we are a national organization. However, we want to maintain our local focus because forestry is such a personal industry. I don't even call it an industry. Most of the time I call it a family, a community. And so we want to make sure that the solutions we are implementing are very personal to wherever we're implementing those solutions. And so continuing to not only grow the program expansion-wide and into more states geographically, but also grow the program in resources and modifications to make sure that we're fitting the personality of industry from region to region, state to state. Also, we're very excited about the continued development of more specific curriculum programs for specific parts of the supply chain in forestry. So we have our forest worker curriculum already. We are about to implement our sawmill worker curriculum, logging worker curriculum, and then in the future, forest ranger, pulp and paper. We got a suggestion for a treating plant curriculum for a very specific type of career that is a huge need for workers right now. And so just continuing to work very, very closely with our industries, our partners throughout the region to understand how we can meet those needs most effectively. But we're very excited about the growth in the future. Hopefully add a children's book in there again somewhere, continuing adding to the Tiny Timber Crew and those resources throughout the nation. But we definitely see continued growth and more than growth, I just want continued improvement. And I want to see continued results that we are affecting the industry in the right way.
All right, Susan, you're new to this position, relatively new, so I know you've got probably a lot that you want to accomplish, but what are some of the things that you're wanting to kind of do over with the Mississippi Forestry Association over the next 4 or 5, however many years?
Well, currently, so we are a partner of Forestry Works, and they have a job board. So we haven't mentioned that job board here yet. So I just want to say that you can go to Forestry Works. You want to give that?
Yeah, what's your
website?
URL for Forestry Works? Yeah.
You were spot on with it. It's www.forestryworks.com.
Okay.
And so you can go there and go to a Forestry Works board. That's one thing that in Mississippi, we have some industry that are utilizing that board and some industries that are not, like some businesses and companies. So that's one thing I'd like to see all of our industries to get on board with that, utilize that job board so it can be a one-stop shop, especially for people looking for a forestry job. And so currently we do have some that are utilizing that, but not everyone. So that's one of my goals is to get everybody on that job board. Secondly, I think just to go into talk to the career coaches, make sure that and talk to high school and junior high students, like at some of these, they have a lot of youth camps that are conservation geared to some of our FFA forestry programs, to really talk to these students about what that looks like for a pathway and to show them all the job opportunities that there are. Also on Forestry Works website, there is, these job cards. So it kind of gives them the job, it gives them what to expect when you look at that type of thing. What is the salary range for that type of career? And so to really get that information to students in Mississippi and to teachers in Mississippi so they know what their options are, because I remember being a senior and I really blindly went into like, okay, well, I kind of like this, so I'll kind of pursue that. But I never really had any true options to somebody say, well, these are some really good options. Would you think about these? And so we need to do a better job, I think, of showing students what options are out there, and how that would benefit them, what that looks like for them. And especially if they're in the counties or the areas that are near sawmills that are around there, because you have some people that are traveling to sawmills to work from 45 minutes to an hour away. But there are people in that area, and some of those people in that area don't even know there's a sawmill,
Yeah.
If it's not on a main road, they don't know. And so those are jobs that are like sometimes off the beaten path that you need to kind of put in a student's hand. So that's one thing. The second goal that I would like to see is just really making that personable to the student and showing them a pathway of how to get there. We do have some pathways that are going to take you to college. We do have some pathways that might take you to a trade school or community college type situation. But then we also have some jobs that are right out of high school that you can start. Usually you have to be over 18 just because of the laws that they have, OSHA laws. And
Right.
we look forward to maybe implementing the Forestry Works forestry worker curriculum in our state that I think would be very beneficial, because, having a little bit of training prior to going into the forestry, I think starts you out at a level that, instead of starting in a position of where you have no knowledge whatsoever
Yeah.
of forestry, it's going to give you a head and shoulders above everybody else to have that type of knowledge. So we look forward to maybe working and getting that started in Mississippi as well. So, but there's lots to do. We want to be creative in the way that we bring things to the students, so to make them interactive. So we're creating some, touch screen and some different things like that to use at career fairs, so they can come up and touch it and maybe see videos of what that looks like in real life. So we're like doing some things like that. So I'm excited to see what the next year brings. And so I'm hoping that within 4 years, 3 to 4 years, that we'll really see an impact of all the stuff that we're putting on the ground in Mississippi, that we'll really see an impact of the knowledge of, students and their excitement to go into forestry.
All right. Susan, if any of our friends in Mississippi want to contact you and ask more about what's going on with Forestry Works in Mississippi, how do they contact you?
They can contact me at 601-941-5591, or they can send me an email at sshed@msforestry.net.
Stephanie, same thing. If they want to contact you and find out more about Forestry Works, how do they do it?
Absolutely. My email address is sfuller, Fuller, @forestryworks.com.
Okay.
Seth?
Yes.
Your contact information.
Yeah, so you can find more information about the Arkansas Forestry Association and kind of a little bit more about what we're doing, or what specifically Rob is doing when it comes to workforce development, at arkforest.org. That's ARKFORESTS.org. And if you want to reach out to me, you most certainly can. My email address is sstephenson@arkforest, ARKFORESTS.org. That last S is important. That's what everyone usually forgets. So, and Jeff, yeah, same for you. If you were curious about what's going on in Louisiana?
And if you're curious about Louisiana, you can contact me. My email is jzerang, JZERINGUE @laforestry.com. It's just like the pie topping, only with a Z. And be happy to help in any way that we can.
Mm-hmm.
Guys, I thank you very much for joining us
Yes.
this episode.
Yes.
This has been really good. I think we're going to have a good response from folks.
Yeah. And, for Voices of Forestry, Forestry Works has been a topic we wanted to touch on. So thank you, Stephanie, for, while we're here hopping in on this. And thank you, Susan. This kind of got dropped in your lap.
Yeah.
From your counterpart, Lauren.
Yeah.
And she suggested, by the way, the workforce development topic when we were talking about doing
She did.
a podcast episode.
She did.
So she kind of, I think, slyly maneuvered her way out of it. But we thank you both for joining us and humoring us through this episode today. So thank
Exactly.
you.
Hey, thanks for having us. I appreciate it. Any opportunity to promote Forestry Works. So I appreciate it.
Yes, thank you.
Seth Stevenson for Voices of Forestry.
Yes.
Jeff Sarang for Minding the Forest. We thank you so much.
Thank you.
And there you have it. That's this month's episode on workforce development. We really appreciate you taking the time to listen and hearing what exactly we have all going on in our respective states. I want to give a special shout out and thank you to some guy named Rob McCormick for the use of our theme song, The Same Love. That's off of his album, The Folkster. You can find more of his music on Spotify. And as always, we'll have a link to his website where he's got show information and more information about his music. We also want to give a special thank you to F&W Forestry again for their continued support of the show. Now make sure you join us next month when we'll have a new topic, a new discussion, and a new Voice of Forestry.